What happens if the 10-year note hits 4% or heaven forbid goes sub 4%? Is this a sign that the market is woken up and the economy is crashing? Is this a sign that everybody will just switch and go all in on real estate? Will this save some lunatics who overpaid in their multifamily value add properties with short-term debt? I don't know, but we're going to have a conversation with the one and only Jonathan Twomley. Jonathan, the 10-year note just touched 4%. We're recording this on 9/11. Never forget. But yeah, just hit 4% even. So what do you think? We go sub 4% and the world's all good, or it's just a sign the world's falling apart?
Oh, it'll all be perfect. Everyone's problems will be solved, and with nothing to worry about ever again.
Yeah.
So, listen. So this is going to get a whole lot of press and excitement from like the multifamily bros, and it's going to amount to a lot of nothing. And I'll tell you why.
Yep.
A couple of reasons. One is that on the margins, there may be a couple of deals here or there for whom it will make, like, it'll be the difference between cash and refinance and not cash and refinance. But it's
a handful. It's like
a handful, and those are not the deals that are like that were bought at the top of the market that everyone's concerned about. This won't mean much because when you factor in the spreads on multifamily, you're still talking about mortgage rates that are keyed off the 10-year in somewhere between 6 to 8%, right? Maybe if you're a really good operator, everything lines up super well capitalized, maybe you're going to get high fives, right? The problem is that those deals that traded in 21, 22, their mortgages were like 3%, right? And they had barely any coverage between their debt service and their cap rate. So they were trading at caps that were sub 4, right?
Yeah.
And it just, unless interest rates go back there, and then and on top of it, a lot of those deals have suffered rent declines.
Yeah, NOI is down to boot. Exactly.
Right. Because they're in oversupplied markets. You also see a lot of the people saying absorption is up, everything is better. It's going to take years, maybe not years. It's going to take at least a year or two probably for all that supply to be absorbed. So, rents, there was a little uptick in rents, and then over the summer there was a downtick in rents. And you've seen like Jay Parsons commenting like, wow, this never happens. There's never, summers, you always get rent growth in the summer. Well, hey, not 2025, you don't. And then you've got all of the economic headwinds, et cetera, right? So I think that this is just, you'll see it all over the place. Everybody will cheer. Everybody will say, the end of the tunnel is in sight, and it's not really going to help very much. On top of which,
actually, you know what? Let me ask you this, because I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
But I frankly am a buyer into weakness and opportunity. And I think this will help buyers.
If you're a buyer, yeah. I mean, if you're a buyer, this is a great environment. I mean, it's tough to find deals that pencil, but I mean, as we've talked about before, that the knife is twisting in those sellers, right? I mean, they are. I mean, to like mangle another metaphor, like they're all on the hook and they're wriggling, trying to get off, and maybe like slightly lower interest rates will get some of them off the hook, but basically most of them are still on the hook. These are not interest rate moves like this are not saving the market, and they don't solve they don't solve the problems of high vacancy. They don't solve the problems of high expenses that are unrelated to debt service, like insurance rates. And on top of everything else, what I was about to say before was that, and I know I've said this like many times on this channel, that period from 2020 to 2022 was historically unprecedented in so many ways. And not only were interest rates like priced as if the economy were in like the worst recession in American history, but the economy was really strong at the same time. So you had this crazy combination of super low interest rates, very high rent growth, stable expenses, right? It was just a golden era, which frankly, I don't really understand how those things could all ever possibly come together again at the same time. Like
free money. If free money is the answer, Jonathan, the government just sends free money.
But they have to do it when the economy is strong.
Yep.
Right.
True. Yeah.
Right. So, and they basically have to like plan for a recession where the majority of people are out of work, except that the majority of people stayed in work and they were getting paid and they were getting money dumped on them on top of it. Right.
Yeah.
So all these things happened at the same time, causing people who really didn't have enough experience to understand how unusual this was to go and pay through the nose, overpay for property on the assumption that somebody else was going to buy and bail them out. And it didn't happen. And we're just not going back there. Like there is going to be pain. It really almost, it's hard to imagine a scenario in which interest rates go back to where they were that would be necessary to rescue those owners. On top of which, if they did go that low, the reason would be because the economy was really bad, like as in the great financial crisis bad, right? And people.
Yeah. I think we should talk about that because when we say really bad, that's not a number, right? So let's try to put some numbers on this. So really bad would be an unemployment rate. Would you agree? What, north of 7%?
Yeah, like 7, 8, 9%.
Yeah,
like we saw in the Great Recession. And all you folks who are like, South population growth, Sun Belt, it's all great. During the Great Recession, those states were hit harder than the more densely populated states like California and New York and whatever.
Yep.
So those states got hit harder. Their economies are more service oriented or manufacturing oriented. These are both things that get whacked in a recession.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to build. Oftentimes recessions happen, right after a period of overbuilding, right? They're not exactly correlated, but there's a lot of overlap that you'll see. So what you'll see is if you get unemployment shooting up to, 7, 8%, high enough that the Fed is going to go like back to zero, what you're also going to see is vacancy rates in apartment buildings at like 10, 12, 15%.
And collection issues and turnover, just all the nasty stuff.
Or maybe you have physical occupancy, but you're not collecting your rents.
Even worse. Yep.
And so try and get that refinanced, right? It doesn't matter what and this is exactly what we saw in the aftermath of the Great Recession. Interest rates were super low and banks still were not lending, right? Because if you didn't have a great balance sheet, if you weren't a strong operator, if you didn't have a history, right? If the property wasn't stabilized, right? Which means that it's 90% occupied for 6 months or more, you were not getting a loan, right? So, so it's not just interest rates. Interest rates is just one factor in all of this, And so people, and the people you see cheering these for low interest rates are the people who think, oh, that's the only factor. And if interest rates are low, then we'll all go back to 2022 and everybody will be happy again. And I just hate to tell you this, guys, if you're in a bad deal and you're wishing to get out, it's not going to happen for you.
No.
None of that. If you're already in default, this is the other thing. If you're already in default, like that ship has sailed, right? You're not, unless somebody dumps a buttload of money on you so you can cure your default and get current real fast, like that foreclosure ship, I mean, it may be really, really slow to leave the dock, but I mean, it's leaving the dock. So
the other thing that I'm seeing and I'm hearing from operators, and this is a noticeable change in the last 30 days, is banks are starting the process, right? I think more and more banks are getting away from extend and pretend. I think more and more banks are purposely trying to clean up their balance sheets. And this is frankly what we've been waiting for those of us that are looking at taking a few opportunities off the table. We got to get banks taking back bad deals, and I think that's starting.
It is starting, and also I think where it's starting too is there were so many non-bank lenders who were operating at the top of the market because they could outcompete the banks because they were not restricted by like the prudence of banks. So they were doing crazy loans, with 1.0
Debt coverage,
debt
yeah.
coverage, or 1.05 debt coverage, 80% proceeds, just crazy stuff. And those non-bank lenders, I mean, they are all in really bad shape, and they have to try to claw back some of that money. And they're under pressure because all that stuff they borrowed on warehouse lines.
Yeah, they were and it's short-term money.
Yeah, they did not. It's not like they had like equity that they were lending out. They were borrowing to lend.
Debt on debt, yeah.
Yeah, and so because they were like, oh, look at the interest rates, they're so low. we can lock in a spread, right? I mean,
right.
You can sure. This is just as an you know me. I'm gonna go off on like another tangent. But
go for it.
Like people, like at the height of the market, people were saying basically like all multifamily is locking in a spread. You lock in a spread between the interest rate and the cap rate, and like you're good, right?
Magic.
It's magic. You know what? It doesn't matter if first of all, you can't lock in the spread because your cap rate is dependent on your operation. So if your operation sucks, your spread is going away, right? Yeah. Because you got to keep on operating it that way, right? Or if you've projected into the future, like, oh, we're going to get all this rent growth, well, you got to execute on that plan. So you haven't locked in anything, right? Not only that, then the market's moving independently of you, right? Mm-hmm. So maybe you are operating, but if interest rates go up somewhere else, like, well, your spread, I mean, your value is not locked in, right? And you've got all these other operating expenses that are fluctuating too. So the idea that like, oh, you've locked in a spread because you bought, you have positive leverage is just really, really simplistic thinking. But that's what people thought was the game. And so these lenders too, they were like, oh, we've locked in a spread, and they have from the sense that like, yeah, we borrowed at one rate, landed another rate, we've locked in a spread, but you got to get paid.
Yeah.
Right? And if you're not getting
you got to finish the race. Yeah.
That's right. If you're not getting paid, then like you've got no spread, right? You're underwater. So there's a lot more moving parts in these things. People got to be aware.
Yeah. So when I look at what's going on, I think the falling 10-year, we're also seeing a collapsing spread, at least on residential. I think banks are getting hungry to kind of get that going. Actually, you know what? Let me ask you this question. Something I said the other day, and I want to see if this ties out for you. So as I understand it, the homeowners are currently sitting on a record pile of equity, estimated to be about $55 trillion in the report that I saw. It's a big number, right? Just call it 50 for easy math. What I think is going to happen over the next 6 to 12 months is asset owners, homeowners, are going to go back and tap their equity. I think there's going to be somewhere between $500 billion and $1 trillion. So somewhere between 1% and 2% extracted in the next 6 to 12 months, if rates get below 6%. I think that's the magic psychological number. I think there's a lot of people that bought before 2020 that are sitting on 50, 60, 70% equity.
Yeah.
And I think again, American consumers are going to do what we do, and they're going to line up and go take some money out of their houses. Now, what do they do with that money? That's a different question, right? Do they just sock it away for a rainy day? Do they go splurge on the next, $100,000 SUV? No idea, right? Most consumers are stupid. But that said, there could be $1 trillion in liquidity extracted in the next year. What do you think of all that?
I mean, it sounds plausible. I haven't really given that a whole lot of thought, but I agree that Americans have a history of tapping the equity in their homes for consumption, rarely for investment, but usually for consumption of some kind. Or education or things like that. I think if people are sitting on equity and it's all locked up,
record amount of equity.
Yeah.
It's just, it's always like when you have a mortgage, let's just use real examples at 3%, and you have this huge equity of, call it 60%, but mortgage rates are 8%. You're like, I'm not going to go get that.
Yeah.
But if you're sitting there there's people who've been sitting there for 3 years, and then the rate comes down, and they're going to be like, 5.5 is close enough. Right. I need to go get some money.
Not just that too. I mean, you're not talking about a scenario, presumably, where they're refinancing their whole mortgage. You're talking about like putting a second mortgage.
Well, they might do either or. Yeah.
Right.
It's a second equity line or
right. Because they might just keep that low rate that they have locked in. And then they're paying and then get a second, even though it's higher, it's a smaller number right? In terms of the debt, the debt service. So, you could definitely see that happening. And kind of when you talk about it that way, I can kind of understand why, why President Trump is so eager to try to get interest rates down, because it's like a way to boost the economy, right?
Well, that's
To prop up
exactly
the
it.
economy, people start tapping into home equity, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's
if that rate gets low enough, Jonathan,
yeah,
it's gonna happen. It's
it's
just consumer 101.
yeah, it's just sort of it's like more American short-termism, right? Like, hey, let's go pile on
And that's
some
it.
more
No,
debt.
I'm not saying it's a good idea. I'm just saying it's gonna happen. There's a very different thing.
Yeah, no, I just really hadn't focused on that. I think it's a great point. Yeah, I could absolutely see that. And look, maybe smart folks are going to say, hey, there's a historic buying opportunity out here now. I've got all this equity locked up in my house. It's expensive, yeah, but I mean, thinking long term here, if I can pick up a bargain and
Exactly.
I can cover the debt service with the rents on this
Well,
property I buy, it's all worth it.
I mean, let's just be really clear, right? I'm sitting on record amount of equity in our portfolio, and there's a very good chance if I can get probably a cash out refi below 6, I might go do a portfolio loan across a bunch of assets and go take some big chunks and go see what happens. Even if I just go to 50% LTV.
Yeah, which would be prudent, right? Just go to 50%, take out cash. It's tax free, and now you've got this nest egg to go spend on bargains that you find
on the next thing. Exactly.
I think it's a good strategy.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, I think falling 10-year note, again, it touched 4% today, maybe going lower, is not going to save bad operators who gambled and were buying at the top of the market, but it will allow asset owners to extract equity and perhaps be ready to pounce on some opportunity.
Yeah. And you could also see it maybe loosening up the market slightly for assets that are not, were not purchased in 20, or at least, even if they were refinanced at that time, the owners were conservative. There's not a lot of debt, like non-distressed properties that
could come on.
It's just time to trade them. If interest rates drop a little bit, that could sort of unlock stuff slightly, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I like it. Jonathan, where can people find you?
Yeah, come find me on LinkedIn, or you can Google Two Bridges Asset Management LLC if you would like to join my investor list, and just fill out the investor form that you'll find on the page.
Thank you so much. Take care.
You too.